Sometimes it's the journey, not the destination, but sometimes it is the goddamn destination. And it's important to tie a little bow at the end of a show. And today we're going to be talking about the greatest TV finales of all time.
That's right.
That's right.
No introduction this time for ourselves.
My name is Ryan McNeil.
Michael Freire.
And TV finales a lot of times can be very divisive. People feel like a lot of times people overreact. They think it can like tank a show or it can like ruin a show, which I think if the whole show is relying on that, it probably wasn't that good to begin with, in my opinion.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I remember like watching a show sometimes, and it'll just be like okay to me, but if the finale is like pretty solid, it kind of brings me up like a little bit. But then I also have to like think like, wait, the entire show is kind of
Yeah. It's
or
the same as when people,
yeah.
It's the same as when people say like, "Oh, it gets really good in season 4." It's like, well, I'm not going to watch 3 seasons of television I'm not really into, just because it might get a little better.
Or actually, I mean, a finale can definitely tank a show by just a couple points. I feel like say, if I could think anything that comes to mind is like Ozark. Ozark was a really weak ending. Game of Thrones, obviously.
Yeah, in high school I got like 2 seasons into Game of Thrones,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, like it's fine, like maybe I'll go back to it someday.
Yeah.
And then when I heard the finale wasn't any good, I'm like, I'm never gonna go back to it.
That's also a really good point. When you hear like a finale's not worth it, like why even watch it? Because I get when, because when I started watching, I think the final season was about to come out, and I eventually caught up to I think like the middle of the season, so I was able to watch the last episodes live.
Okay.
So it made a big difference because I feel like maybe I wouldn't like finish it at that point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, another one is I love Lost.
Yeah.
I think it's a great show. Like I think the first season is like the first 3 seasons are like some of the best TV ever, but I can't lie and say the whole last season, but especially the finale, it's like it just doesn't it doesn't leave you super satisfied.
Right.
It's a lot more abstract than it needed to be.
It's almost like watching a movie that you know isn't good, like that isn't supposed to be good, but you're just watching it for like a completion sense, like just to say you watched it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that with like they love a franchise, so they feel like they have to watch every movie in the franchise or something like that.
Yeah. Like I watched Finding Dory yesterday or something 2 days ago. Never seen Finding Dory. Lukewarm reception on it, but I rewatched Finding Nemo the day before it, and I was like, I'll give Finding Dory a shot. I wasn't completely satisfied with it, but it was kind of just like the sense like, might as well like finish it,
Yeah. Are there any finales that come to mind aside from like Game of Thrones that like you really feel like damaged the show?
Well, I said Ozark.
Yeah, Ozark I've heard was a pretty weak ending, even from people who like really love it.
Yeah, I really did love Ozark. I thought it was like super good, but let me try to think.
Yeah, let me see what else we have. And yeah, that the Seinfeld finale was very divisive, especially at the time.
Yeah. Oh,
I think over the years people have grown to just be like it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
A huge controversial finale was How I Met Your Mother.
Yes, even I know the story behind that.
Yeah, I actually love the finale.
You do? Okay.
Yes. But I can understand why people don't. But and the final season also, I guess, is worth to say, like not even a finale, but a whole final season. The final season of How I Met Your Mother was easily the weakest.
Okay.
And I guess that kind of, for some people, left a poor, like that was just like the icing on the cake, the finale. But I thought the finale kind of made up for everything, for myself.
Yeah, and I think that is also the other problem finales have is that a lot of times they're going into their final season running on fumes.
Yeah.
You've lost a cast member or two. You've probably lost a lot of writers. And then you have to kind of patch things together all year just to get to the finale.
Yeah, especially like How I Met Your Mother's 9 seasons. When you're running for that long, it's hard to keep everything together so consistently.
Yeah. So we've covered how damaging or how problematic a bad finale can be. But now we're getting into the good stuff, the best TV finales of all time. Now, Mikey, would you like to start with your number 5?
Oh, I have a couple honorable mentions.
Oh, yes, please. Honorable mentions, of course.
I have the Wizards of Waverly Place, The Wire, Futurama, and How I Met Your Mother.
Okay, remind me the Wizard of Waverly Place ending, because wasn't the last thing they did the Alex versus Alex TV movie?
So I think the finale of the show, I don't know about the movies, but the finale of the show was like the final test of who gets to be the family wizard, and whoever wins that or whoever beats everyone else in that test of the 3 kids is the wizard, and everyone else isn't a wizard. It was like a cool like tournament kind of thing.
I do remember that. It was like, it wasn't like like on the set, right?
Yeah, it was like in like another world or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, I think that wasn't Alex versus Alex, but I think that was another one of the TV movies where their parents forget who they were or something.
Oh no.
That was a different thing. Okay.
Yeah, that was definitely a movie. I think the finale of the show, it's like
there's also a tournament.
Yeah, they went to like some like wizard dimension. I don't know, like where the wizards reside, and they had to take the test. Yeah,
I gotta draw a memory on that.
Okay. I could be completely wrong, actually.
I always remember liking that show.
Yeah. I did enjoy Wizards of Waverly Place.
The greatest New York show of all time. All right, now your number 5, Mikey.
My number 5. Oh, you don't have any honorables?
No, I actually didn't list any.
Oh wow, surprising. Okay,
my number 45.
My number 5 is a little show of Japanese animation, and that is a show called Hunter x Hunter. And basically, like the whole premise of the show is, there's this kid. He has a dad that left him, because he's a hunter. Hunter is like a very like prestigious thing. Like, you know, they hunt, they can fight, they can do whatever, and they can explore. So there's different types of hunters, and his dad like went to go like explore or whatever. And the entire show is basically, you know, the kid is going through like this adventure, but the main goal is to find his dad. Now, it's worth noting that the show isn't actually over because the writer of the books is still writing it, but it was a pretty definitive like finale for when the show was out. Anyways, and he finally. Spoilers. We're talking about finales, so spoilers. Yeah. He finally finds his dad, and they're like, it's just the ending scene is just like a talk. Like they're just talking about everything, and the dad's talking about his experiences, and it's just very heartfelt, and it was definitely worth it. Just like a simple discussion between a father and son.
I think something that seems like that finale did right, which I think more finales should do, is that they feel like they always have to go big and go big and go big. A lot of times, the simpler you keep it, the better.
Yeah. And
like I think the reason a lot of people didn't like the Seinfeld finale is the Seinfeld finale was big. The show was always very small. Yeah,
that's a really good point, because I feel like, you know, finale, like you got to go out with a bang, but when they stuck to the goal the entire time, and that's all they needed to do.
Yeah, because sometimes a finale can feel like a completely different show because they feel like it has to be something different.
Yeah, you can always feel. A lot of the times, you can feel like if you're not even looking at the episodes, you can feel when you're watching the finale.
Yeah,
you know.
And sometimes it's better if you don't feel it. If it just feels like an episode almost.
Yeah, that felt like an episode. Which, you know, technically it could be if more episodes do come out, but it was a good one.
But if that's the end, that's a very heartwarming, simple way to
I'd be very content with it being the end.
Okay. Now we move on to my number 5. I think the most consistent show of all time. I have The Wire.
Ooh.
Seasons 1 through 5, I think, are level playing field. Season 4 is probably the best, but we've done this before where we rank the seasons, and you can put them in any order, and I totally get it.
Yeah. I would have to... I think I told you this before. I think Season 2 is my favorite because of how kind of disconnected it is.
A lot of people love Season 2, which I get. Yeah, Season 2 is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think the finale is... Again, doesn't go out with a bang. It doesn't try to be anything bigger than what it was. And I'll watch the video on YouTube of the final 4 minutes or whatever it is of the show. where it shows the message of the show the whole time has been the game doesn't change, just the players.
Yep, yep.
And it just shows people in different places where these characters ended up, and you're more or less satisfied with where everybody ended up.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got, I don't want to say, more or less got what they deserved. Because I think at the end of the day, a lot of people could be problematic or a little scummy, but they were good people. Like, I think McNulty was a good guy at his core.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the end, you see he's in a good place. He's helping people out. You know, Bunk's helping people out. Daniels became a lawyer, and then the redhead became the judge. And the most important thing, the most heartwarming thing of the whole thing is you see Bubbles walk up the stairs at the end. Bubbles has his life in order.
Yes,
and like,
yes.
And it's a show like so serious, but they're allowed to have this like, it's not cheesy. It's just like you're allowed to have good things happen.
Yeah.
Some like super serious shows feel like they have to like keep it like super real, and like keep it kind of like a downer.
Mm.
The Wire finale, it's so realistic. It just feels like life, and this is how it is. It's like we're 5 years in, people are in different places, things happened, and you're very satisfied with where everything ended up.
Yeah, I think you made a good point about how, you know, the message is the system doesn't change. But the ending of the finale almost feels, even though like that point is being made, it's very hopeful still. Like, you know, like you said, what's his name? Daniels is lawyer. Like everyone has like new beginnings, kind of.
Yes, a lot. Yeah, a lot of people are in new places that they're even. You can tell they're excited about for themselves.
Even though nothing is really going to change, there's still a place.
There's still some personal growth.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though the city is still what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, now we move on to your number 4.
I think everyone's expecting this to be on here, and that's the Breaking Bad one.
Okay, I'll keep my lips sealed.
Okay, yeah. You know, I mean, I think people claim this to be like the best finale of all time. Ryan, I'm sure that's probably where yours lies.
We'll see.
Somewhere around there, but I thought, yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad by any means. It's my top 4 of all time. I think the final moments between Jesse and Walt were truly special. I mean, I feel like the finale as a whole was like almost a movie. Like the setup with the gun in the car that he builds, super cool. When he goes to see Skyler again, and you finally hear him say like he did it for himself, because throughout the entire show he was just saying for family.
Yeah.
Everything really came to a head really nicely. Jesse's finale with him, you can see there's El Camino, but in the sense of Breaking Bad, he's very broken after everything that's happened. But when he kind of looks back at Walt, it's like mixed emotions with him. You can see that he's like angry with him and the situation he's been put in, but almost kind of like sad to see his old friend go, in a way.
Yeah, and I think also at the same time, Walt is the guy who got him out of there.
Yeah.
So Jesse's like, he got me in it, but hey, he got me out of it. So he isn't like rage filled.
Yeah, and that drive home with Jess, and where he's like screaming and banging on the steering wheel, chills. I mean, one of the best character endings as well. And I mean, I think everyone could have predicted that Walt dies in the end, but that doesn't mean it was a bad ending whatsoever. It was still played so well, and he's, you know, looking at everything. Baby Blue's playing, a great song to go out on too.
Yeah, did you know that song before? I didn't.
No, but
yeah, neither did I.
Now I do.
Yes.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. I loved it.
Yes, more to come on that one. My number 4, we have probably the most talked about, most discussed, most theorized TV finale of all time, and that is The Sopranos. I'm guessing this is coming up somewhere on your list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love it because it obviously does. It doesn't do what you expect it to do, obviously, in any way, shape, or form. And I like it how you almost can't be mad at it because there is no ending. You can't be mad at the ending because it doesn't feel like it ever ended.
Yeah.
So it gives the illusion of like you don't get to know.
Mm.
And I've heard lots of theories of like the implication is that it goes black on the audience, so the audience gets killed off, which is kind of cheesy, but also it honestly sounds kind of cool.
I never even heard of that one actually.
Yeah, I heard
That
of that.
sounds pretty stupid.
Though I think Tony dies personally. I
Oh
think that's what
yeah,
it means.
yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's quite clear.
yeah,
Yeah.
and because they show different groups of people coming in, and you're like, it's one of them.
Mm.
Doesn't matter who. I don't care who. It's one of them. He's made so many enemies. He's gonna get what's coming to him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something so powerful about cutting to black that I don't know. Like it's still like I knew it was coming. Like I knew this was how it ended before I watched the show, and like it was still like this shocking moment when it happened to me.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe that how meticulous everything was in this show, and it ends with a black screen. Like it's almost I don't know. It's left an effect on me like no other TV finale has,
Mm-hmm.
and not in like an awesome way. I felt great about it, just in a very interesting way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a show that changed everything. It's only fitting that they changed finales as well,
Right.
for good and bad.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people felt like, oh, they did that, we have to do something crazy,
Mm-hmm.
or they have to do something just play it safe. I think a lot of shows felt like we have to play it super super safe because The Sopranos did that, which frustrated a lot of people.
I think also, like how you said, so I was just like you. Before I watched the show, I knew a cut to black in the end. I think that was like the first episode I watched was when Janice kills Richie, but the second episode I ever watched
Yeah.
was the finale.
Oh wow.
Just because my friends put it on because we went to Holston's, the diner where the finale's shot, and we sat actually in the same booth, and it has like a little reserve for the Soprano family. Super cool. But when, like, say you get spoiled for an ending, like say Breaking Bad, like you get spoiled that Walt dies in the end, you would be much less inclined to watch the show. I would, I think that's fair to say. But with this, when you know it cuts to black, there's really nothing like holding you back because there's no like baggage. I feel like you're not like, oh, Tony dies. Why would I watch the show if like this guy's if it's just leading up to his demise? You know, it kind of it's a black screen. It's it's a closing, but it's also open ended. I don't know.
Yeah, because like it's a spoiler that technically spoils nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what makes it so interesting, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk about it more later when we get to your spot.
Okay.
Well, let's see what you got at that number 3 spot, Mike.
My number 3 is what I think is the better finale of the universe, and that is the Better Call Saul finale.
Also my number 3.
Good man. I would give you a little buzz through the phone, but
buzz. All right.
How should we start this? I mean, I think it is the best redemption of a character maybe in television, especially I mean on my list especially.
Yeah, I think I texted you during the finale when I was watching it. You had already seen it. And I basically said like, "Oh, Jimmy lived in the end. They basically killed Saul off."
Yeah.
Which is something they didn't have to do. They could have just left him as Saul. Saul has his demise. He flies too close to the sun. But no, it was nice that they like he obviously ends up in prison. He's not happy, but he's a better person. And like the audience knowing that, they're like, "Okay, Jimmy came back around." It's very satisfying.
I feel like it was much more shocking too that they didn't kill him off. Because I think shows nowadays, it was the daring thing to kill off your main character, and it became a little too overused. So I think it came into Better Call Saul expecting him to die.
Yeah, I think also I was going into the final season because Breaking Bad ended with Walt dying. I was hesitant if they were going to kill off Saul.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
I knew Gilligan probably didn't want them to feel like too similar.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think the entire final half of that season was so well done because not only does it obviously close off Better Call Saul's character, but it are Better Call Saul characters, but it also kind of closes off some Breaking Bad characters too, like Marie.
Yeah, Marie shows up. They mentioned Skyler's name.
Yeah, they mentioned Skyler. You get that really like just simple moment between Jesse and Kim. Also, Kim had a great finale too.
Yeah, same as him. Like she's not like really happy where she is, but she's not actively like destroying people's lives anymore. She's a
Yeah,
better person with the
she
life she's leading.
she had also it was a finale of redemptions. Would you say,
Yes,
Ryan?
I would say it's a finale of redemptions.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's very poetic how um this back like Jimmy always tried not to throughout the entire show. Everyone's telling him, "Oh, you're slipping Jimmy," and he fought it for basically most of the entire show, and then I forget what season he. I guess it is season 6 where you get that scene where he's like finally Saul Goodman in full form.
Yeah, because they do like the time jump.
Okay, so then you kind of he really couldn't like run away from his past, so he kind of just went full force into this whole Goodman thing and being like the scrappy guy, and then eventually ending in lawyering fashion, defending himself and really kind of like you said, killing off Saul Goodman and through the court of law.
Yes, and it was good. We got one final courtroom scene where he acts in a way unlike he ever has acted, and I did like how it was pretty much a twist because they have that meeting where he's asking all these requests.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want this kind of cell. I want to be in this prison. I want to, what does he ask for? A gallon of chocolate chip mint ice cream every week in my cell or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then they like basically give in all the demands, but then he gets into the courtroom and he basically reveals it was all a facade. He's like, no, here's everything. It was all me.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned himself in. It was very poetic. It felt good because obviously with Breaking Bad, Walt isn't a good guy, so his death you feel like is almost justified, and Saul going to jail or Jimmy going to jail is justified, but you feel better about him. You still like him at the end of the day.
That's a really good point because Breaking Bad, the entire show, it's just this guy, like we said, Walt thinks he's good, but he's really bad. But Jimmy tries to be good, but he kind of just falls into these bad tendencies, and he finally broke out of it and really came to his senses, and just for one last push to take his punishment but also redeem himself.
Do you think the last season of the show was the best season? I think it was.
Ooh. I think season 4 actually for me.
Okay.
Season 4 I think was like the best mix between really good lawyer stuff. I think that was that with chicanery or was that season 3?
I think that was 3. Let me double check real quick. That's definitely the best episode of the show.
Oh yeah.
I gasped out loud multiple times during that. That was season 3.
Okay. Then I don't know.
That kind of hit reset. That a lot of stuff in season 3. So season 4 probably felt kind of fresh.
Okay. I would say season 6 is the most consistent. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And outside of the finale, it wraps up your Lalo, your Nacho. Sets off Gus Fring in the direction we know he's going, more so. So, yeah. Better Call Saul. I mean, a show that we knew was going to be... I mean, there was no real worries with this finale.
Oh, yeah. Also,
knowing they had nailed it with Breaking Bad and how consistent the show was, like, it's so rare for us to go into finale like, I know this is going to be good.
I also liked how they weren't dumb in the fact like they had to give every character an ending, like say Mike. We know what happens. Mike has his ending in Breaking Bad, or like you say Gus. Like they kind of just like set Gus off and set him up for Breaking Bad.
Yeah, we can figure it out ourselves.
Yeah. That's our number 3.
Yeah, that's our number 3 now. Mikey, number 2, a little duet for us.
Coming back around, we got The Sopranos.
Woo-hoo! I don't know what your number 1 is now. Okay.
I don't think you're going to know.
Okay.
But, actually, hold on. I went to Target yesterday and I got a neat, very, very, hold on.
Okay. Mikey is grabbing an item from Target. I'm assuming it is Sopranos related.
Oh yeah.
Now, what have you for us, Mikey?
So I was at Target and I was in like
Mhm.
the DVD section, movie section, and I was just looking for something, and I dropped something, and I bent down and I look at the bottom row as I'm picking something up, and the last copy of the complete series.
Oh, look at that.
Yep. It's my baby right here.
Keep that puppy in the plastic.
Let me show him off. So,
I remember as a kid going to the library when I was like, I don't know, like 8 years old maybe. So the show would have like just been off the air.
mm,
And in the VHS tapes, they had every season next to each other. And when every season was there, it spelled out Sopranos on the spines of the VHSs.
ooh,
And I always thought like, oh, that looks so cool. Like I had no idea what the show is.
yeah.
But yeah, so I was always enamored with it. So that's cool that you have that.
All right, so back on the Sopranos.
Yes.
I think my probably favorite thing about the Cut to Black is the fact that Tony, the entire show, is a very, although vulnerable man, he's a very indestructible man, where every problem that's thrown at him, he solves, really no problem.
Yeah.
And I think the Cut to Black was the best decision because, I mean, yes, we're both agreeing that Tony dies. It's good that they didn't show that, though, because Tony was so indestructible.
Yeah.
And they didn't really want to show his true demise.
And the visual of that, it would have just felt like any mobster movie, kind of.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have felt special. It wouldn't have felt different when the show was special and the show was different.
That's a really good point, yeah. And also the entire scene of in the diner with Don't Stop Believing going on, it really made you feel like, even though it was a very tapered down finale, it was very grandiose in other senses.
Yes. And we were both of us are okay with the finale. It's both on our top fives. We love it.
Yeah, yeah.
But one, we knew the Cut to Black was coming, and we watched the show over a span of a couple months, 3 months, whatever. I can't understand where people like my parents tuned in every Sunday night while raising 2 kids to watch the show for 7 years, and then all they get is a black screen. I can understand why some people are pissed off.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a little avant-garde of a finale, but
I think it definitely is.
Yeah.
But I mean, the last season, I mean, the show did dive into more of that territory with there's more hallucinations and dreams, and all the Kevin Finnerty stuff is very kind of mystical. You don't like those episodes, right?
where he's in like the comas and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
I thought they were fun. Okay.
No. What was I gonna say? Shoot.
I have also heard that it starts with him sleeping, then he like jerks up, and people say like it's supposed to be like that's how, like it ends with like
like
it's
a
almost in
bookend?
reverse. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Which people have looked into it so much that
Yeah.
there's theories on everything. So
Actually, I do think people look into it a little too much.
probably yes.
It's quite obvious what happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm always open to different theories though, but I mean, no matter what way you cut it, we like it.
yeah, that's true. And this is also a finale that you can't wait to see other people's reactions when they start watching the show.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a hard finale to keep secret though. I feel like anybody who's like going to go into it, they already know that that's what's going to happen.
when I showed Nikki, she had no idea.
Oh, really? Oh,
When she was
what did she think?
And she eventually got to the finale and it shut off, and I was watching it with her, and she was like silent. She was like, "What happened?" And I go, "That's it." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And then the credits start rolling.
Yeah.
I do think I think she liked it. Yeah. I mean, like you said, when you're just like binging everything, it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like pretty cool when you think about it. Because, well, I mean, Sopranos, I watch it over and over again, like, forever. And I will never care that it cuts to black because, well, I'm going to start up season 1, episode 1 again.
Yeah. And I think, and that's another one where the journey is so good that like the destination didn't have to be perfect.
Yes, exactly. And you can really feel the weight of the journey at the end of the episode in the diner. It's just a simple, and it's like like the whole theme of the show was about family, and there they are sitting down as a family at a diner again.
Yeah, and I think a show like Game of Thrones, I feel like at least, like everything was like leading up to the outcome. Like, what's the finale going to be?
Yes.
And then when it doesn't stick the landing, it wipes everything else away.
When there's a clear goal to the show, that's when it gets pretty dangerous. I feel like, because I feel like writers don't want to write so easily into the predictable ending of a show where there's a set goal, and they try to turn heads as much as they can, which can fall really flat, as seen in Game of Thrones. But yeah, I mean, Sopranos, you really had no idea where it was going to go, and every episode was kind of just like seeing day by day.
Yeah. And I like how it kept you guessing until the end, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fitting. It was fitting. Now, my number 2, I have a show that just ended last month. I have The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Barry.
No,
I was like,
no,
whoa.
not Barry.
Okay.
Yeah, we both like the Barry finale.
We like it, yeah.
Yeah. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime. This is a show that kind of was leading towards a finale because it's about her career as a comedian. So you kind of do need some closure about where she ultimately ends up.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first episode of the show, they have some flash forwards to like 20 years in the future. And I got very nervous because Lost's last season the first 3 seasons had flashbacks. Seasons 4 and 5 had flash forwards. Season 6, the final season, had a flash sideways to an alternate universe, which you kind of learned was also purgatory. So the last season is a fucking mess.
Okay.
So I was worried when I see a flash forward because it just gives me PTSD from Lost. But they were all handled very well where you see outcomes of things that happen in the future at various moments in the future. And then you go back to the main storyline in the 60s and you kind of see how they eventually get to those points.
Mm-hmm.
And the finale comes to a really, really great close where the flash forwards reveal she becomes very successful. You don't need all the details. You get it. The finale shows how she really gets her big break. And it comes in a very believable way, a kind of a messy way, but a way that makes sense for her. Very defiant, very kind of, I guess, kind of selfish. She can be kind of selfish, but it's for the sake of her comedy, and that's what she always puts first. And then the final moments are wonderful, where it's like a full 40 years in the future. It's take place in like the mid-2000s, where everyone's obviously much, much older, but everyone's getting along. Everyone's happy. Her and her manager, Susie, you learn have a rift over the years, and now they both just talk on the phone, and it's simple. And the last thing you hear in the show is laughter. And I think it's such a good way to go. It goes to black, and all you hear is laughter for like 5 seconds.
That's pretty good, considering it's a comedy.
Yeah, it's a show about comedy. It's one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. And it just ends with you watching your 2 favorite characters laugh together. It's very poignant and very, again, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It just ends with a simple phone call between friends, and they have a laugh. That's it. It doesn't have to be super big, and it ends very, very nicely.
That's good, because what I gather from Mrs. Maisel, I've seen like a few episodes, is it's a pretty simple show. I mean, am I wrong in saying that?
I mean, yeah, storyline-wise, it's pretty straightforward, I guess.
It's not a One Tree Hill.
No, oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. And we should look up for a finale. Because from what I understand, the One Tree Hill, at least the last season, involves basketball, of course.
Yes.
Family drama.
Yes, of course.
I believe kidnapping.
Yes.
I believe geopolitics, the Iraq War come into play at some points. I'm assuming babies are born, marriages happen in the final season because it seems like that kind of show. But One Tree, we should just watch the One Tree Hill finale and do a commentary of it.
That could be pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Mesa finale, you could watch it like on its own and probably enjoy it too.
Yeah.
Which can be a good thing and a bad thing to say about a finale, but here I think it's a very, very good thing. So that's my number 2. And it was just last month, so yeah, absolutely love the way that show wrapped up. But now we move on to your granddaddy, your numero uno. Surprise me, Mikey.
My number 1 is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Whoa! Wow. Okay.
You haven't watched this, am I right?
I have not, but I've heard it's it's 3 seasons, correct?
Yep, three
I've heard very
seasons.
consistent across the 3 seasons, and yes, I've never heard a bad thing about the finale, so I'm assuming everyone is very satisfied with it.
Yes. So the finale, first of all, it holds a great memory for me because I remember when it was coming out, and there was some like family gathering at our house and the same day, and all of our cousins, we all watched the show, and we all gathered around our TV, and we were all just watching the finale, and good time. But like I said in I think previous episodes, I think about like villains or something, is the whole show builds up to there is a goal. The show has a goal, but it handles the finale the right way, where it builds up to this fight between the Fire Lord who wants to take over the world and whatever. A pretty tongue-in-cheek goal for a villain, but it's all handled so beautifully where you finally get to the fight, the final it's more than a fight, but sequences, final episode, let's say final episode, and the fight is a great fight between the Avatar and the Fire Lord, and it's just like a kid against like some 30-year-old man.
Okay.
But in the end, he goes. The Avatar bests him in a fight, and he goes, "Well, I'm not gonna kill you, not gonna hurt you." He goes, "But I will take away." He learned some like technique called energy bending, where you can take away people's bending powers. He goes, "But I will take away your bending."
That's pretty big.
Which kind of stripped the Fire Lord of all this manhood and any power or anything. But that's just the fight as a whole. But everything ends pretty well, where the main character and the love interest, they have a really nice just romantic ending, where they kind of just like finally their love kind of just comes to a head, and they finally like seem like okay, they're gonna be together now. Where shows will dance around that the entire time. Zuko, Prince Zuko, he was in my top fictional characters. He redeems himself. He comes to power over his father, and he's saying, "Well, now I'm going to work with the Avatar, and me and the Fire Lord and the Avatar are going to work together and set the world right." So there's so much hope, and it also leaves on a really interesting cliffhanger, which is Zuko's mother. You really hear nothing about, and he finally goes to the Fire Lord and he says, "Where's my mother?" And that's how it ends.
Ooh.
That's the last. I think that's like the last screen. So
does that set up a show with him or something else?
So there's rumors about a Zuko show probably coming out. There is a movie that I don't know if Netflix is doing it. A movie that's coming out about them older, because the Avatar is very young, older, where he's still, still the Avatar. So maybe there's gonna be some of that. But it's a question that hasn't been answered for so long, but I really don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
you can live with the fact that he now wants to know. He's more defined.
Yes, and I also don't really want to know, because I feel like it could.
You like the mystery.
Yeah, they can maybe like do it a little wrong, but it's just the fact that him and his mother were really like, they were close while his dad, the Fire Lord, was he hated the both of them, and this was just his way of showing that he doesn't need his father. He wants to find his mother, whether she's dead or alive. But he's finally, that was his stand against his dad. That was his final stand.
I've said this before on the show. I love sentences I've never heard before. And Mikey, you said the sentence, "The Fire Lord was stripped of his manhood."
Yes. Well, he was.
I believe you. I believe you.
It's like a big masculinity thing, I guess.
I'll have to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, never heard a single bad word about Avatar,
Yeah.
and that goes for the finale as well. So someday I'll give it a look see.
Highly recommend.
Yes,
And it's just
and
so
now,
easy to watch.
yeah, I bet it is.
Yeah.
And now we move on to my number one. We're keeping it in the Gilligan verse. We have Breaking Bad.
Oh, I completely forgot you didn't mention Breaking Bad.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. It's my number one. I remember when I watched it. I didn't know he died either. So
I
I
don't
was a
remember
little
if I knew.
surprised, I think.
Okay.
And I was also in middle school, so like I didn't know like, oh, the main character a lot of times dies or is expected to die. So I was actually kind of surprised, like, oh, they killed off Walt. But yeah, and I remember like over the next year, I probably watched it like every 2 months because, like you said, you could just watch that finale like on its own, and it's like a cool little movie.
Mm-hmm.
You see where he is at the start, and like you can piece everything together. And I think one of the best things about it is there's very little dialogue in that finale.
Yes.
Like when he goes to Skylar, when he goes to the gray matter people, and then obviously the whole showdown, like there isn't a lot of talking.
Yeah.
And I think the last words of the show, it's when he calls what's her face, Lydia, is that her name on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she realizes she's about to die, and then that's it. He goes and he dies. Jesse's off, like you said, perfect ending for Jesse.
Right.
El Camino doesn't. I mean, it does everything you kind of expect it to do, but I mean, the ending of El Camino where he's in the car or the truck, he's heading up, and you see like he has a vision of Jane there. It's very sweet. El Camino, I think, has a reason to exist. It's obviously unnecessary though.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, a lot of people consider it number one. It's my number one. I have no notes with it. I can't think of a way it could be improved.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it got even better. Like
Right.
consistent is like as good as you can ask for a lot of the times. When it gets even better, like that's another level.
And I think everything is so well orchestrated in that finale, where with Walt's plan, where like with the gray matter people, where he uses them to ensure that the money goes to Walt Jr. With Lydia, he has a contingency plan, and he's expecting himself to die. So he's really just leaving everything on the table. Just here's all my cards.
Yeah.
And going out with a bang, and does it so beautifully.
Yes. And what a bang it does that he goes out with.
Yes.
And it was also great that you see Jesse kill Todd with his bare hands.
Yes, that too.
Because Todd very deserving, obviously. And there was one more thing. Oh, it's the license plate at the start of the show.
The New Hampshire one,
plate says "Live free or die." Obviously, shows the fates of our two characters. One lives free, one dies.
Me and Ryan have talked about what states have the best license plate.
Yeah, that might be a future episode, by the way.
Not a bad idea. And I think actually New Hampshire, the Breaking Bad finale alone, I think gives a New Hampshire license plate top of the pack.
Yeah, it gives it a lot of credibility.
Yeah. I know it's an odd conversation to have, but
the New Hampshire license plate is good.
Yeah,
they got a couple different ones. They got the Green Mountains, but they also got the one with the moose.
You gotta have the live free or die.
Yeah, I think they both have that on it, right? Yeah, they both have that.
Yeah.
That's big. All right, those were our top 5 TV finales of all time. I'm happy we got to cover a lot of Breaking Bad, a lot of Better Call Saul, and of course the great state of New Hampshire. And Mikey, one of the best things about finales is, personally, I kind of